Hello YouTubers, this is ATSF3415 DVR or Doug, and today I'm going to give you a review of the new Lionel Legacy Pennsylvania Railroad B6sb 060 steam engine. Now I'm just going to start off with a bit of basic information about the engine. The product number is 6-82307, and the road number is of course number 5244. And it has Legacy Control, Legacy Rail Sounds, Odyssey 2 Speed Control, and requires an 031 minimum curve. Now I'm going to start off with a little bit of history about the B6sb. The first prototype for the original B6 was constructed in 1902. And then there was another version known as the B6sa, which 55 of them were built between 1913 and 1914. And finally, this is the B6sb, which was built between 1916 and 1920. And these were the final type of the B6, and they didn't have very many changes from the B6sa. And this engine right here, number 5244, just happened to be the last steam locomotive in active service on the Pennsylvania Railroad, and it operated there until July of 1959. So, now I'll just give you a little bit more basic information about the model here. Give you the dimensions. The length is about 17.75 inches. The height, measured from the top of the rail to the top of the cab, is about 4 inches. And the width, measured at the front pilot, is about 2.5 inches. Now, I'll go ahead and get into some details. Alright, starting at the front of the engine, we have our powered electrocoupler, which can activate from the Legacy remote or the TMCC remote. Then we have our switching pilot with the footsteps. We also have a separately applied coupler cut bar. Then we have lighted marker lights. And then the boiler front opens up like that, and you can see the separately applied number board. The boiler front is held shut with a magnet. Then of course we have our headlight, and over here, moving down the engine, of course we have our pistons. Then up here we have our separately applied builder's plate, and of course a separately applied dynamo, and our smokestack, which has a great smoke unit. This is already my best smoking engine. We have our nice side rods, which looks to be the Walscher's valve here. And we have our separately applied air pump with a little pipe going down here. And of course our handrails, which actually double as the antenna on this engine. And in the manual, Lionel specifically states not to make the antenna touch the engine because it's isolated for better signal performance. And of course we have our stand dome and our steam dome with the separately applied pop-off valves and whistle. Then our separately applied swinging bell. And we do actually have what appears to be a whistle cord here. Then moving on down the engine, we have our firebox here. And then we have the cab, which I'll get to next. Inside the cab we have a nice detailed interior with 2 crew figures, as well as a flickering firebox glow. We have separately applied details. Actually, no separately applied details. We have nice cast-in details, including the firebox door, some gauges, and of course the throttle and other controls in the cab. Then below that, we have the socket for our wired tether, and we have the drawbar to connect to the tender. We also have cab window glass, and the roof hatch does not open on this cab, it is cast in. Alright, now we're moving on to the tender. On the tender, we have a nice cast-in coal door here, and we have a separately applied real coal load. Of course, we have nice, crisp, clean Pennsylvania lettering, and we have those yellow handrails that I like so much. Let's see, we have a bit more separately applied detail right here. And then we have our water hatch, which is cast in and won't open. and we have some nice steps running down the tender that do have drainage holes in them. We of course have our marker lights, which also light up, and our tender backup light, which lights up. Then at the back of the tender, we have an operating electrocoupler, just like the front, and a coupler cut bar. But now I'd like to talk about what I think is one of the best features on this Legacy B6. And that is the fact that it has a wired tether. And you might be saying, well, Doug, a wired tether, that sounds like old MTH PS1 stuff. Why is that a good thing? Well, that's because the B6 is a very short engine, and if you have big switches, it might stall going through those switches. So Lionel has solved this problem by putting extra pickup rollers on the tender and connecting the tender to the engine via this wired tether to supply the needed power. And now that also leads to one of my biggest problems with this engine, and I don't know if this is just this engine in particular or if it's something Lionel has been doing for a while now, since my most recent Lionel engine before this was from 2008. And that is the fact that the pickup rollers on the tender, and probably the engine also, are magnetized. Now you might think that's a good thing because it would help it stay on the rails and not have any power loss. It can actually be quite a bit of trouble when you're trying to connect the tender to the engine because it has a very close coupling and it's hard to get the tether and the drawbar in. But it's sort of a minor gripe. And excuse my phone there. So it's sort of a minor gripe, and it's not a huge problem, but it's definitely sort of annoying. Alright, now we're going to move on to, you guessed it, the best features in my opinion. Not best feature, I will tell you the best 3 features in my opinion on this engine. These are the wired tether, the nice slow speed control, and the smoke. Now of course I already talked about the wired tether and how it improves performance over big switches. And then this smoke, it is probably the best smoking engine I own, and maybe the best smoking engine I have ever seen. And it really packs a punch for such a small engine. And then 3, the slow speed performance. And that's because it can just go really slow anywhere on your layout. And it even manages to make it through my really bad switch over here, which you probably saw in my running session video. And with most engines I have to guide them through the switch by hand, and with this engine I can just roll it through at 1 or 2 speed steps without any problems. And then right below that, my favorite feature would probably be the sounds, because the sounds on this engine are really good. It has a nice bassy chuff. The whistle, though it's high-pitched, a little bit annoying, it is prototypical and is pretty much a good whistle. And other than that, it's just standard Lionel sounds. It all sounds great. And now I'm going to demonstrate to you some of those sounds and show you some of those other features I talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up by blowing the whistle. Does not want to start up. Let's see if I can get it to now. There we go. Alright. We are in reverse, and now we're in forward. I'll start out with the whistle. I'll show you all 3 levels of quilling. It's one of my favorite things about the whistle right there, is that if you're really careful, and you let off of the lowest level pretty carefully, then it will go into sort of a predetermined quill where it goes even lower than the lowest level. I'll try and do that again for you. Didn't do it that time. It only does it sometimes. You have to be really careful with it. Now I'll show you the bell. Just a standard bell. I believe that is the same bell that was on the Lionel Pennsylvania K4, but I could be mistaken. And I'll show you some crew talk features.
Howard, I'm made up, ready to pull. Am I clear to make a move? Over. Roger that. The lead is yours. Over. Roger. Cleared onto the lead. Out.
There's an example of the crew talk. And now I'll show you the blow off and water fill. Alright, now the water fill.
My water's full.
And those are some of the sound features. And now I'm going to put a bit more smoke fluid in this engine and show you the smoke. Alrighty, we've got our smoke unit topped off, and I'll go ahead and turn on the smoke unit. You can hear the fan going. It'll take a little while for the element to heat up. There we go, now the smoke started. You can probably see that stream. This is just on low, which shows you how good it smokes. Now I'll move it up to medium. Get the volume even higher. And now, finally, high. Which is absolutely crazy. This engine smokes so much that I would probably always run it on low, unless I'm just showing it off at a train show or something, and maybe even sometimes run it with the smoke unit off. I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see there's a big plume of smoke coming up from this engine. And of course, it switches to be synchronized with the wheels and the sound once you start moving. That shows you the crazy amount of smoke a bit better. I'm going to put it down to low just to show you how much it is even on low. You can see it's still very smoky. Well, you know what? This is a perfect time to demonstrate the slow speed running of this engine. So I'll back it up a little bit. And in a good position to do that. Alright, now I'm going to use the speed feature on my Legacy remote and press the roll button, which is 1 speed step. As you can see, it is moving very, very slowly. And very smoothly also. You might also be able to hear little creaks and groans. Those are newer Legacy sounds, which simulate an engine that, I don't want to say not well lubricated, but the normal squeaking sounds of an engine. That shows you the low speed performance. And unfortunately, I don't have any big switches to show you the performance of the wired tether, but I believe you could get the gist just from what I told you. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the engine to show you the shutdown sequence.
Tower, take it up right now. Out.
Alright, that was the review of the Lionel Pennsylvania B6sb switcher. And I'll just give you a final thought on the engine. I believe this is a very good engine. It has great detail, great sound, great runner. And if you can find one, I'd recommend picking one up because this was a built-to-order item, and some of the dealers still have a few left. So if you want one, get your hands on them as soon as possible. But they're not the best value because this engine did cost around $600. And if you saw this and you liked it, I'd recommend getting one. It's just a really super nice engine. Well, that was my review. Thanks for watching.